Hey guys, welcome back to another Ncurses tutorial. Today's Ncurses tutorial is going to be the first part in a status bar series I'm going to be creating. Today we're just going to be coming up with the foundation, the very basics of a status bar, just get something that works. Just showing you a few examples, kind of just talking about the, what a status bar is and how we're going to, go about creating one. And then in future tutorials, I'll expand on that, add some new features, things like that. So if you guys like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, leave those down below. If you want to see these videos right as they come out, consider subscribing, turning on all notifications. If you want to support the channel a little bit extra, I've got a PayPal donate button down below. And I'm trying a new camera angle today. Let me know what you guys think about that. So anyways, let's just get started. All right, so today, a few things just to get set up. I've created a makefile, a main.cpp, and a source folder with a StatusBar.hpp file in it. So the makefile is just has an all directive with main, and then the main rule is we need main.cpp and anything within our source directory. We want to check to see if anything has changed in those files. If you guys don't know about makefiles, this isn't really a tutorial on that, so feel free to copy and paste this. This basically just compiles our C++ file for us, includes the Ncurses header. Then I have a main.cpp file, which I'll go over in just a second, and I've created a StatusBar.hpp file, which is located in that source directory. I think it's just a good practice to put any sort of HPP files in a source folder. It's just what I do, and it's just very basic. It's basically boilerplate. I just saved some time by making this. And I'm including that within our main.cpp file here. So first off, I've just added the basic stuff you need for an Ncurses program, the init screen and the end win at the bottom. I've also gone ahead and cleared the screen, I think it's good practice, and refreshed it. Let's just make sure everything that is, the whole screen is empty and ready to go. I've also set curse set to 0, which just gets rid of the cursor because we don't really need the cursor. And no echo because we don't want our input showing up on the screen. I've also done this basic has colors check here. Usually I'd put an error message, but I'm just not gonna for this tutorial. It just returns 1 if we can't support color. And then we start color. So, because I'm gonna be using color for this tutorial. All right, so let's just get started here. So first off, let's think about what actually is a status bar in terms of Ncurses and Ncurses windows. So one great example, I think, is Vim. Vim has this nice status bar down here. I believe I actually added this with a plugin to NVim or NeoVim. So as you can see, if I open a real file, so let's open main.cpp. There's actually 2 status bars. The basic status bar that Vim provides is down here. You see it gives just some information about what file we have open, and a few other things like what line we're, or how many lines there are, how many characters there are. And then we also have this status bar here that tells us what mode we're in. So if I hit, I to go into insert mode, it changes to insert down there. It also tells us what file we're in, main.cpp, and a few other, information like what kind of file this is and what encoding we're using for the file, things like that. So we probably won't make something as intense as this, but we're going to try and come up with something similar. So just as an example. Another example, I think, is Nano. You see Nano. This isn't really a status bar per se. I guess this part is a status bar because it kind of tells you it's a status. It kind of tells you what's going on. But this is more of like a command menu, I guess, down here. You could still kind of achieve that with a status bar if you wanted to. Oh, I forgot different commands. I'm used to Vim, so Control X for exit. No, we don't want to save it. Cool. So that's kind of, we're going to try and create a status bar. It's always at the bottom of the window, whatever the window is. And it's going to just present some information, some text. So that's what we're going to be getting at here today. So let's think about that. So first off, we'll start by just doing it on the standard screen. We'll eventually generalize it to any window, but let's just do it with the standard screen for now. That's kind of what Vim is doing. It's doing it for the whole window, and that's what the standard screen is. So how would we go about printing a status bar, or creating a status bar? Well, at the basic level, we just want to move and print. And where we're going to move to is we're just going to move to the bottom of the screen. So with the standard screen, we can use the lines global variable, and that should be the number of lines in the terminal. And I believe it's just going to be lines -1. It could just be lines. I can't remember correctly, but we'll see in a moment. But lines -1 should be the last line in the terminal. And then we're going to start in column 0. And then we're going to print normal. Kind of like we're going to try and emulate the Ncurses, or sorry, not the Ncurses, the Vim screen here where we have normal when we first open. So if we make and run this, oh wait, we want to do one more thing. We want to do a refresh. Technically speaking, getchar should run a refresh, but I think it's always good to do a refresh anyways, because I think there are some functions that turn the refresh off for getchar, so it's always just good to do one. So we'll go over here and run make, and then we'll do a run, and you'll see we get normal down in the bottom, kind of like we would expect. So I'm just curious here, if I change this to just lines instead of lines -1, I wonder if that's going to do the same thing. So do make and main, and we'll see. Okay, yeah, so it is lines -1 that we need here. So lines -1 like that. So we'll do make and run again, and you'll see we have normal down in the bottom. But you'll notice that it's just as normal text. Maybe we'll want to print it with some attributes. So in order to do that, print it with some attributes, you kind of just use attributes in the way you normally would. I have a tutorial on attributes and setting them and all kinds of things already. So if you want to check that out, I should have a card up above to that right now. But so say we want to change it to a different color. So in order to do that, we have to first create a color pair. So we'll call a init pair. Again, I think I have a tutorial on attributes and color pairs. It might be the same tutorial, but either way, there might be a card up above. So this is just going to be color pair 1, and it's going to be color blue for the foreground, and then color black for the background. I believe that's how that that works. It might be background then foreground. We'll find out in a moment. And then we're going to set attribute on, and we're going to pass it that color pair. So color pair 1, like that. And we'll do the same thing down here, but we'll turn it off. So now if we make and run that, just go back, you'll see that, yeah, okay. So we actually want to reverse this. So we want it to be color black for the foreground and color blue for the background. And if we make and run that, you'll see we get normal with a blue background, and that kind of mimics what we have here in Vim. Obviously, it's not the same like lime green color, but it's the same idea. Okay, so cool. This is basically a very simple status bar, but we kind of want to generalize this to something that is easy to make and apply to any window, because you don't want to have to rewrite this code every single time. So how are we going to do that? We're going to create a class called the StatusBar class. Now, the StatusBar class, like I said, I've already kind of set it up here. We just include Ncurses.h and string, because I'm going to be using string to hold text within the StatusBar. And there's a few variables we need to create. To start out with, we're just going to create a window. This window is going to hold the parent window that the StatusBar is contained within. So, and what we'll do is with the constructor here, we will pass it a parent window. So we're going to say window star when, or we'll just call it parent. And by default, we're going to set that equal to standard screen, like that. And that way, if the user doesn't pass a window, it'll just use the standard screen by default. So we'll say parent equals parent, like that. And we'll just make and run this. Oops, not Vim. Want to make and run. And you'll see we get the same thing. That's just because we haven't deleted this down here. So I'm just going to comment this out. So we'll do a quick comment like that. And now we should get nothing. Perfect. Because we're not expecting anything to show up yet. We haven't made a status bar. I just want to make sure there was no errors. So what we'll do now is over here in our main.cpp file, we'll just create the status bar. So status bar, like that. Because it doesn't require any variables, we can just call it without a constructor, and it should work just fine. And we're just going to try and replicate what we already had done here. So this will automatically use the standard screen, which is what we were using before. So our next step is, well, we want to add some text to it. So how do we add text to it? Well, first we need to create a member variable to actually hold the text. And like I said, I'm going to be using strings to hold the text. So we'll create an std string member variable that's just called text. Simple enough. And then what we'll do is in our constructor, we'll just set text equal to a blank string by default. And we'll create two extra methods, one called getText, so that'll return a string getText, or std string getText, take no parameters, and it will return our text variable. And then we'll also create a method called setText, which takes a string as a parameter, and we'll just call it text. And what that'll do is I'll set our text variable equal to the new text. So that's simple enough. We'll go back here, and again, we'll just say StatusBar.setText, and we'll make it equal to that same string we made below. So space, normal, space. Now, at this point, again, nothing should show up because we're not actually displaying that text yet. So how are we going to display it? Well, we're going to create a method called draw. So this draw method is basically just going to display that text to the screen. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to first get our output column. So this output column is going to be the column that we're going to output to. So here we just made it equal to lines -1, but now that we're generalizing it, it has to be for whatever window we've been passed in. So it can't just be lines -1. It has to be the largest line within whatever window has been passed, whatever parent window we have. So that's going to be equal to parent underscore max y -1. So it's if you aren't familiar, you can, with any window, you have this variable max y available, which is the largest y value available within that window. And we're just going to subtract 1 from that, kind of like we did with lines over here. So that's our output column. Sorry, not column, output row. That's our output row. Our output column is going to be 0 by default, though you could play around with that if you'd like, but ours is going to be 0 by default. So what we'll do is now we'll do a move w print w because we're moving within a specific window and printing within it. So the first parameter is always the window, and then the second one is the y value, so output row. And then our column is just going to be column 0 to start out with. And now we're going to print out getText, so the value of getText. So with that all done, oh yeah, sorry, we have to, because this is Ncurses, Ncurses doesn't like strings, we have to convert it to a C string. So you just, any string has this method called C_string, which just converts it to a C style string. So now with back in our main function, main function, we can do StatusBar.draw. And what that'll do now is it should output the text we're expecting. So we get space, normal, space. Cool. But now how do we do this whole attribute thing? So one thing we're going to do is we're going to actually save the attributes to the class. So that way, if we wanted to redraw in the future, we can recreate the same exact setup. So the way you store attributes is using a type called attribute t, and we're going to create a member variable called attribute or attributes. So again, I think I went over this in another tutorial. Again, there might be a card above to this. Attribute t is how you store attributes like color and bold and things like that in Ncurses. Now, there's a couple ways we could go about doing this. Technically, we should create two methods called getAttributes and setAttributes. So we'll do that really quickly. So we want to set getAttributes, and it's going to return attribute t, or t, and it's just going to return our attributes variable like that. And then we're going to have a get attributes or set attributes, sorry, set attributes method as well. And again, that's going to take attribute t or attr t attributes, and we're going to set attributes like that. Oops, spelled attributes wrong there. But in addition to doing that, I want to make our setText method a little bit more functional in the sense that I'm going to add a second parameter here where we can optionally set the attributes within the same method. So we'll add a second parameter here called attributes, and we'll set that equal to 0 by default. So if they don't want to pass that in, it's fine. It'll just set the attributes to 0. Sorry about that. I had a system message pop up. So anyways, what we'll do now is we'll just set attributes equal to attributes within this. And what we might want to do is we might want to check, is attributes equal to 0, just in case we've already set attributes before and we just don't want to reset them to 0 by default. So we'll say if attributes is not equal to 0, we want to set attributes to whatever was passed in. So that's just a good guard, I think, just in case. Because if we've already set attributes in this method here and then we call set text, it's going to blank it out if we don't have this check. So just a good idea. And now down within our draw method, what we can do is we can do attribute on or add or on, and then we'll pass it our attributes variable there, and then we'll do the same thing down here, but we'll turn it off like that. So now when we have our set text method, I'm just going to pass it the attribute that we had put down here, the color pair 1, so color pair 1 like that. And now when we make and run, you'll see that we get the same kind of blue text, blue background, black text, and it prints the text the way we're expecting. So that's the very, very basics of a status bar. Like I said in other tutorials, we're going to kind of expand on this. There might be 2 or 3, I'm not sure how many at this point, but this is the very basics. For instance, in future tutorials, you'll notice that there are more than one part to the status bar. There's this bit, then there's this bit here, and these other parts. And what we're going to do is we're going to break the status bar up into what are called parts, basically. I mean, that's how I see it normally called. Right now we just have one single part, but we want to have more than one. So that's something that we'll do probably in the next tutorial. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys have liked this tutorial. If you did, again, consider giving me a thumbs up down below. If you have any questions, comments, like whether or not you like this new camera angle, please feel free to let me know down below. And if you want to see these videos right as they come out, consider subscribing, turning on all notifications. Want to support the channel a little bit extra, consider pressing that PayPal donate button down below, and every little bit helps, so I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you all soon.